Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call this webcast to order, please, here in the room. And I would like to welcome everyone here who is with us in Washington, D.C., and also welcome the folks who are participating in the webcast from afar. We have about 120 individuals who have signed up to participate today, so we want to welcome everyone across the country for joining us. I also want to thank Pew for hosting this. This is a terrific venue, and we appreciate their support and their willingness to let us hold this convening here. And also, great thanks go to J.P. Morgan Chase for their generous financial support that make this convening possible. I am Nancy Register, and I will introduce the speakers and keep this panel and the panels moving today. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what we're going to be seeing. First of all, we're going to be hearing about research, behavioral research that was done last year using with the summer jobs participants who participated in 2015 summer jobs programs. They were followed, over 200 and some of them were followed over 8 months to examine their savings behavior and the impact that the America Saves program, participating in the America Saves program, had on that. We will also hear from youth who are workers themselves. We will hear from financial institutions that support and provide products that help the workers save and have establish direct deposit and then save over time. And we will hear from a panel of municipal summer jobs programs that actually implement these summer jobs programs. So first of all, I'd like to introduce George Barani. He is the Director of Strategic Initiatives for America Saves, and he is going to announce for the first time, the findings of our behavioral study that was held over time. George.
Thanks, Nancy.
Yep.
Good. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks. You know, that helps to get the juices going. So thanks very much for being in attendance. So the America Saves for Young Workers program was created to help facilitate automatic saving, encouragement of saving, ongoing motivation and support to save, laser-like focus on saving for young people engaged in youth employment programs. I'm clicking this correctly. What am I clicking? There, thank you. So America Saves provides a resource to the key players, and those are youth employment programs. The people on the front lines doing the hard work of engaging young people, offering them a work experience, training for work, getting ready for work, and adding this important component of helping to encourage saving a portion of their pay, teaching them how to save, for many, the first time, offering access to bank accounts, and most importantly, direct deposit. So in essence, the same tools to save that adults get, why shouldn't young people who are being trained for work right from the get-go with their first paycheck receive the same opportunity? We developed this starting 6 years ago in Chicago when we found that young people were going to check cashers, being paid with paychecks, paper paychecks, paying the fees, and not saving anything. So since that time, we've moved from pilot to model to full implementation with an online program. And thanks to the very generous support of J.P. Morgan Chase, as Nancy said, we were able to do an 8-month-long behavioral study to see what the results are of these youth saving. So we focused on our 2015 partners, and you see them listed. And if you see me looking down here, it's because my monitor is down here on the floor, so it's a little bit unusual for me to look at the slides down there. And that's why I'm definitely wearing my glasses. So you could see that we had representation from Chicago, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Houston, Miami, Milwaukee, New York City, St. Louis, and Washington, D.C. And thank you very much to these partners for making their youth available to participate in the study. So this is tough to read. So we contracted with CNR Research out of Chicago primarily because they've got 30 years of history of surveying youth on a variety of issues. They've got monthly panels on products and services, issues, and so we found them qualified to do this work with us. Youth took a 15-minute online survey. They were paid $10 to participate. We did 4 waves, starting in August, ending in March. 100 youth in each wave, 238 total participated, and the group to be selected from totaled 2,700. So what we found was that 52% of young workers had no previous savings habits. This is self-reported. And only 35% of them, on average, had savings accounts. So what a tremendous opportunity. When we asked them what would make it easier to save, they told us having the right tools to build their savings and reduce their spending. And when we asked them what is the best way to save, now, once again, this is after their summer employment, after they received all the support services that each program provided, and after they completed the America Saves for Young Workers program. They told us that the best way to save is by putting money directly into a savings account. Smart young people, eh? We also asked them why they took the America Saves Pledge, which is the core of our work based on research. It's intuitive that people will do something if they have a goal in mind, and so we provide that opportunity. And they gave us, varying responses. And remember that these young people who are part of municipal jobs programs primarily come from low-income and disadvantaged families because that's the requirement for them to be part of these programs. So these young people responded, and I'm not going to read all these, but one, I have a hard time saving my money. If I don't save and put some away, I will spend it immediately. And I think that's probably true for all of us. So let's look at the impact of opening an account and use of direct deposit. So the percentage of youth owning savings accounts increased significantly by 66%. So thanks to all of these programs that develop relationships with financial institutions to provide youth with safe and appropriate accounts to use. Most of the youth kept their accounts open through March. Checking accounts at a higher level than savings accounts, and at a slightly smaller level, both. But the majority kept their accounts open through March, 8 months after their employment ended. When asked if they were going to use the same account or keep their accounts open for the following summer, 76% expected to do so. Of those given a choice to use direct deposit, 76% of youth in these programs were given the choice to use direct deposit. 66% opted in to use it. And we see that savings remained consistent through March. That on average, 70% deposited into their accounts through March. Now, there was a low period in January, 56% made a deposit, but that makes sense. I mean, it's after the holidays. Only about 4 in 10 worked formally through the course of the school year, and so the others probably struggled making some kind of deposit, yet they still did. So they expected to use direct deposit with their next job. 61% of those who remained employed through after their summer employment through the school year chose direct deposit, which is just huge, that they on their own sought out, used effectively direct deposit as the primary mechanism for not only receiving their pay, but also saving. And we saw in March that as they anticipated their next job, 84% expected to be employed, with 79% hoping to use direct deposit. So for me, this is a sign of hope, that they had hope and a positive outlook about not only getting a job, but how to get paid and what to do with that pay. So in 2015, just to give you an overview, a total of 21,945 youth employees were reached through the America Saves for Young Workers program. Almost 16,000 used direct deposit. Almost 10,000 new savings and checking accounts were opened. And we had a little over 1,200 youth open linked accounts to set up automatic saving with the support of a partner financial institution. And we had over 12,000 youth pledged to save over $5.5 million. Interestingly enough, and this is self-identified even at March, that 52% considered themselves a new saver. They had no previous savings experience, and so we relished that. We were able to influence and impact young people who had no experience, and now we're starting to save. So let's look at youth reaching their goals, amount saves, and how we helped through America Saves. So by October, we saw that 61% of young people had met their pledge goal. And even in March, 41% had met and set a new goal and started all over again. So this concept of goal setting seems to work with a good amount of people. It helps support them, and it gives them something to shoot for. This one really was stunning, candidly, for us, that on average, even through March, account balances had about $400. Now, we see that a third had it under $100, but the remaining 70% saved a good amount of money for a young person and kept them on balance over time. And a question to some of the bankers and credit union people in the room ultimately is, are these young people doing better than regular customers who walk in or members holding similar types of accounts? Significantly, we saw that 80% of young workers established a savings pattern. We could go so far as to say a savings habit, because that's ultimately the goal that we're looking for, is how can we encourage, motivate, and support young people to develop a savings habit that many Americans don't seem to have. We also saw that 9 in 10 teens continue to find the communications that they receive from America Saves, even through October, to be helpful. In some cases, very helpful. And we've adjusted, based on some information we saw through the report, some of our communications will change during the course of the school year, recognizing that the majority are not formally employed and struggle to save. And so we need to customize our messages to them that it's okay if you're not earning at this point in time, but there are still ways to save, primarily around spending. And they acknowledge the importance of and the usefulness of America Saves in terms of, and this is key for us, showing me how to save. Because we've heard in focus groups over the last few years, young people saying to us, adults, teachers, parents, others are telling me to save, but nobody is showing me how to do it. And they weren't really speaking about financial education. They were talking about what's the mechanism, what's the system that allows this to occur? How do people really do it? And I don't know about all of you, but I never had somebody who really showed me how to save. There was some kind of expectation that, okay, you open up a bank account and now save your money. Well, we're going deeper. We're being very directive, we're being very specific, and showing young people how to save automatically utilizing two accounts, one to save, one to spend, and obviously using direct deposit. So this really is a partnership. There's no other way to describe it. None of us could do this alone. This is about behavior change. And the key players are youth employment programs and the leadership of those programs. They have the vision, they have the ambition, beyond the tremendous amount of work and stress they have in gearing up, recruiting, certifying, verifying, hiring, placement, orientation, workforce development, adding this component of how to be paid and how to save automatically is really to the credit of the leadership here and around the country that's taking this on. So in terms of impact, we saw that 80% established a savings pattern, a habit, a 54% increase, average monthly balances of $400. By March, 41% who set and met their goals set a new one. And this expectation, this hopefulness with the next summer job, 79% hoping to use direct deposit. Thank you very much. Happy to take a couple of questions. The report is available now online, and we will be sending it to everyone who's registered either here or on the webcast. Any questions or comments? We will move. Yep.
I'll ask my same question, which is... Hi, I'll ask this.
Could you identify yourself since we're on a webcast?
Sure. Ruth Susswine, Consumer Action. I'll ask the question I asked earlier, which is, so are the savings automatically done by the lender, or is it something that the youth has to do every single month, transfer money in?
So this automatic saving is ideally set up through the orientation process with the employer getting an account routed the same way we would do it, getting routing numbers if the individual has an account. If they don't have an account through the employment program, they ideally will access an account to arrange for direct deposit. Where we find great success is where financial institutions work with these individuals to set up two accounts, explain those two accounts well, and then take that pledge amount, I want to save for a car or an emergency fund or a house or clothes or sneakers, whatever the goal is, taking that pledge amount, talking to the young person about having that automatically transferred from their paycheck into that dedicated savings account. So it's set up at the beginning of the summer so that by the end of the summer, in those 6 to 8 weeks, they get it. They see how their savings have grown automatically. That old adage, pay yourself first and out of sight, out of mind, put that into practical application, and it makes a difference, as we've seen, because of the ongoing use of direct deposit and the retention of their accounts. Chris? And then we'll move on.
Hi, Christopher Wright from the city of Tacoma. I was wondering if you had noticed any differences in program service delivery that may have enhanced the numbers in some areas rather than others, or where there were successes?
Well, that's a great segue because not the next panel, but the panel after will address that in terms of innovation provided by programs that we're going to feature. So we'll definitely get to that. Thank you very much.
So we heard about the research, we heard about the impact of these programs, and now we're going to do a little bit deeper dive into the programs themselves. And the first panel we will hear from are the young workers who have participated in 2 of these programs. So I would like to invite the moderator, Rodney Hood, who's the Manager of Corporate Responsibility for J.P. Morgan Chase, and his 2 young workers to come to the podium. Rodney.
We'll let our speakers get settled. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. I am delighted to be with you all this afternoon, and I'd also say good afternoon to our folks who are watching from the web as well. We're delighted that you're with us also. You all, at J.P. Morgan Chase, we firmly believe that advancing inclusive economic growth is one of the most important issues of our time, with a critical role for the private sector to play. To that end, through our corporate responsibility efforts, we are making long-term global commitments intended to improve economic mobility for all. Each year, we contribute more than $230 million to support 4 key pillars. First, to develop a workforce for the 21st century. Second, to grow small businesses among the underserved. Third, improve consumer financial health. And fourth, support strong, equitable neighborhood economies. Our support for America Saves for Young Workers sits at the intersection of 2 of these priorities: improving employment opportunities and strengthening consumer financial behavior. Through New Skills at Work, our 5-year, $250 million global workforce initiative, we are supporting both private sector efforts that focus on developing talent and best-in-class training providers that work in partnership with employers to create pathways to increased economic opportunity. And we are in particular addressing youth employment by strengthening career-focused education, aligning education and training with the skills employers need, and supporting summer youth employment opportunities in many cities across the country. In fact, sitting here today at lunch, I was able to meet Evelyn from the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services, who's benefited from some of our work throughout the country. Are there any other folks here who have partnered with us in some of the cities? Good, I'm seeing a wonderful show of hand from Cleveland. Oh, we have Cleveland and Chicago at the same table today. My goodness. May the best team win. Ladies and gentlemen, we are deeply focused, yes, indeed. You all, we are also deeply focused on efforts to increase the financial resiliency of individuals and families. J.P. Morgan Chase is also investing in financial capability programs that support innovative new products and services that leverage both technology and insights gleaned from design and behavioral science to help consumers increase savings, improve credit, and build assets. We also work with nonprofit partners to expand the availability of these innovations and to share best practices on strategies to improve consumer financial health. For all of this necessary and critical work, it's vital to remember what it looks like on the ground to the people who are getting an education, looking for a job, and managing their income, especially for those who are getting a paycheck for the very first time. As George has said, this is a key point in time to instill great behaviors. And according to the research we've just heard today, we are indeed making encouraging progress. So ladies and gentlemen, it's now my pleasure to turn this over to our 2 guest speakers we have with us today, Nia Hill and Dorian Collins. They have generously and graciously agreed to share their stories. And after we hear their stories, I'm going to open it up for questions from all of you. So begin to think about some questions we want to ask our 2 distinguished speakers. And I'm going to sit down and join you all, and we'll begin. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nia Hill. I'm a freshman accounting major at Howard University, and I'm from the city of Chicago. I grew up on the west side of Chicago in a neighborhood called North Lawndale, and it is a low-income neighborhood. I grew up in a single-parent home with my mother, and my first summer job was when, the summer after freshman year, so I was like 14 years old, and I worked at a farm, which is kind of not my field, but my mom got me the job just because I could have some extra money in my pocket. But before that, I did not have a bank account. Did not know about direct deposit until I started working for another internship program called Chicago Summer Business Institute, and I worked at Citigroup that summer, and they made us, not encouraged, but they made us get a bank account with Citibank just because they wanted us to know how to save, and they wanted us to just prove to them that we're like working on our saving skills. This summer, I worked with Economic Awareness Council, and I worked with Tracy in the back, and I served as a money mentor, and I traveled around the city of Chicago and encouraged other youth to open up bank accounts, open up saving accounts, use direct deposit. And this summer was actually the first summer that I actually used direct deposit, and it was very beneficial to me because it was extremely convenient. I didn't have to go to the bank. I just wake up, my money was there, I could save my time and my energy, and overall, it's just a really useful tool that I want all youth to use. And America Saves, the pledges really helped me because they kept me accountable. I was able to raise, I came up with the goal of saving $1,000 just for emergency funds, and I was able to do that with America Saves just because, like, they would text me. Yeah, so I would receive a text message from them like every 5 minutes. Did you save? And I'm like, you know what? I should save. I'm gonna put this in my bank. But what I learned from America Saves is gonna help me in the future because I did get an internship with PwC this summer, and I'm gonna be making more money. So I'm definitely gonna use what I got from America Saves to help me save with my PwC internship.
Thank you, Nia. Dorian Collins.
Hi everyone, I'm Dorian Collins. I'm originally from Washington, D.C., and I just graduated from Smith College in Massachusetts. So I moved back home and I graduated with a liberal arts degree, so I was a little unsure of exactly what I wanted to do next. So I applied through the D.C. SYEP program and got a job at the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking with their Bank on D.C. program. And with that program, there were 22 young people, and we were called Young Money Managers. So we went out into the community and we did peer-to-peer financial education training. We did tweeting. I helped with social media, tweeting and Instagramming, and making sure that the youth are really engaged and involved, not just in the classroom, but like socially too, because that's where they are, on Twitter and Instagram. So that was really awesome to be able to meet them face to face and to be able to talk to them and meet them where they are, and really instill those practices of saving and budgeting and what do I do when I get my first paycheck and how do I handle this money. So that was really great. And like you, the America Saves Challenge was awesome because those text messages are real. So it was good because it wasn't a direct transition from my checking account to my savings account. I had to go to the bank and manually do it. And so that got me into the habit of, okay, this is how I saved. I never saved before, which is probably not a great thing, but I never saved before until this summer. I was like, okay, I do need money for emergencies. I need money. I'm living at home with my parents. I need to help them out and give back to my home and also to my community. So being able to come home and give lessons about what I learned on the job and how I was teaching the youth, I was able to also help my family and help the people in my neighborhood. So it was a great experience in all ways. So I really am thankful for America Saves and also for the opportunity to learn about financial education. That's not something I had in school or really even in my household. It was kind of like you do what you do to get by. But to be able to learn about it physically in the classroom and then to meet people who were just like me who had no idea and be able to teach them was just awesome. So.
Great, thank you. What great speakers and what a great representation of this program. I'm going to begin by asking our speakers a question, and that is, there are going to be so many hundreds of young people throughout the United States embarking upon similar programs this upcoming summer in 2017. What's the one key takeaway or piece of advice you would give them based on your experiences?
I would say that it's possible. I think I was in the morning meeting today, and there was a roundtable discussion, and we were talking about saving and what does that look like. And where is she? at Dr. Price. I don't know if she's here. Okay. She was talking about, okay, it doesn't matter how much you save, just make sure that you save. And so she picked up an apple juice bottle on the table and she was like, okay, this costs $2.18. If you can just save $2.18 just to be in the habit and to get that motion going, I think sometimes especially as a young person growing up in the city, there's so much that we think that we have to do, or like we're pulled in different directions in terms of finances. And to be able to say, wait, I can save money for myself before I give to my family, before I give to my community, before I pay student loans, I can save a little bit of my income for myself. So it's possible.
Great, thank you. How about you, Nia?
One piece of advice that I would give is to have one savings account at a different bank and your checking account at another bank, because I told you all that I saved $1,000, but it was hard because I saw the balance in my account, and it was just really tempting for me to transfer money from that account to my checking account and spend it on shopping or food or something like that. So this summer I did open up another bank account, like at a different bank, just so that I wasn't tempted to spend my money. So I would just tell them to make sure that they save their money, and if need be, open a different account and make sure that you're not spending it all.
Great, thank you. Do we have any speakers? Any questions for our speakers? We have a mic. Oh, yes, I see a question in the back.
So saving is one part of the equation. How do you all deal with the pressures to spend your money? Because there's a lot of marketing and people spend millions, billions of dollars coming up with campaigns to encourage people to spend their money. So what are some of your coping mechanisms for fighting against the advertising or the red-heeled shoes or the bag or whatever? What do you do to fight back against those forces?
So, as I said, I grew up in a low-income neighborhood, and my mother is extremely economical. So I've taken on what she has. So she loves to, well, for example, like I love to shop. I'm not gonna lie. Like my friends love to shop. We go shopping together, but we go to the sale section or we go to the thrift store. So instead of trying to buy or keep up with the Jones, we stay in style, but we do it in an economical way. So I just budget. You don't have to get the newest bag, you don't have to get the newest shoes, and if you do, you can probably find them on sale a couple months later. So I just try to stick with my economical ways, and I try to budget my money and just even write out a list of what I need and what I want so I can take care of those needs before the wants, and just even ask my mom because she's very economical and she knows where the sales and the deals are. So that's just me.
Yeah, my mom is all about sales and deals too. One time we went to the outlet, and I'm across the outlet shopping center, and she was on the other side just smiling with bags because she got all these sales. But for me, it's a little hard. I think for me, what I had to do was have 2 bank accounts. And so one bank account I had the majority of my savings in, and also that's where my direct deposit went. And then I took out just a lump sum of money just for that month to put in a separate savings account. And I was like, okay, this, Dorian, is the money that you have for the month that you can use, and the rest of my money was in a different account.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Howdy. You two are definitely very responsible, wonderful young ladies, and are shining examples of how this program can work. Why do you think some of your peers may have not adopted some of these saving habits before, and what do you think people like us can do to encourage them to do that better?
I honestly think it's just because of a lack of knowledge. Before I started my internship at CSBI, I didn't even know about bank accounts. I didn't know about direct deposit. So I think what America Saves is doing right now is perfect. Just continues to inform the youth about saving, the benefits of saving, and how in the future even it will benefit us. So just people not telling them what about direct deposit is great, why we should do it, what about saving is great. That's the main problem. We don't really know. Because like I said, I grew up in a low-income neighborhood, and my mom didn't even let me know about, why I should save, why I should have a bank account, and things of that nature. So just a lack of knowledge, and just continue to inform the youth what they should do.
I think lack of knowledge is definitely one point. I think education is so important, so that's why I love peer-to-peer education. But I think also making sure that it's tangible, that it's something you can visualize and believe, because it's one thing to hear it, like, okay, I can save and I can get this, that, and the third. But if you start with small goals with the youth and say, okay, you can save and get, like, I don't know. Okay, so my coworker, she also was in the Young Money Manager program. She disciplines herself and brings her lunch to work every day, except one day of the week we decided that we would both go out and buy lunch. Now for me, I usually end up buying lunch like 3 days out of the week. But just those small goals, it's like, okay, I'm gonna save and I'm gonna be disciplined so that I can spend $10 in 1 week on something that is rewarding to me at the food truck. So small goals that it's tangible. It's like, okay, I see this working on a weekly basis. How can I make this monthly and then yearly?
Great. Well, you all, we've come to the end of this session, but please join me in thanking these wonderful, I want to call the ambassadors for America.
Okay, so that was inspiring. How about start small, think big? How about set a goal, make a plan, save automatically? Did any of this ring true for anybody else in here but us? Okay, so next we're going to hear from some of the programs that have created the wonderful innovations that have inspired and helped young workers around the country to save. So I'd like to invite Luke Reynolds, who will moderate this panel. Luke is the Chief of Outreach and Program Development for the Division of Depositor and Consumer Protection at the FDIC. So Luke, please invite your panelists to come up. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for the kind introduction. Panelists, feel free to come on up. The FDIC has a long-standing commitment to financial education, as it's a critical component of our efforts to promote economic inclusion. We know that consumer confidence in the banking system is heightened when the broadest possible segment of the population can benefit from a relationship with a bank or credit union that meets their needs. For several years, we've aligned our financial education efforts with the Financial Literacy and Education Commission FLEC Community Starting Early for Financial Success theme. And I'm sure when Lisa talks a little bit later, she'll talk a little bit more about that. Because we know the promise of helping shape young people's financial identities at critical developmental stages. For example, the FDIC has underway a youth savings pilot to identify promising practices for banks to not just provide financial education, but also provide account opening opportunities for school-aged children, working with schools and nonprofits. We also have worked with some of our regulatory colleagues to issue guidance to encourage financial institutions, banks and credit unions, to participate in youth savings programs and answer frequently asked questions that arise. And we really hope that guidance can be a resource for financial institutions going forward. One of the slides George had up earlier really hit home with me. It really takes a partnership, financial institutions, nonprofits, employers, workforce development boards, just to name a few. Financial institutions in particular have a unique opportunity to provide financial products that can make the education practical and really realize the promise of savings programs. Today's panel will provide some examples of how to encourage young people to save and how to use the America Saves program to encourage ongoing savings. I'm going to ask everyone to hold your questions to the end. First, I'd like to introduce Kathy. Kathy Ector Cox has been involved with youth community advocacy and volunteer initiatives for more than 20 years. She's currently the youth service manager and community specialist in the city of Raleigh, North Carolina, where she oversees the city's youth employment program, which employs about 200 young people each year. Would you like to get started, Kathy?
Yes, thank you.
And I'm going to join you on the table.
Thank you, Luke. I am Kathy Ector Cox. I'm really, really happy to be here because I believe that America Saves for Youth has really been a great resource for our youth participants. We hire about 200 youth each summer, and I'll wait till the PowerPoint catches up with us. Here we go. Okay, and I don't know how to use this. Okay, this one? Okay, very good. All right, we do hire 200 youth each summer. One thing that we found out at the end of our program, we do an online program evaluation for each of our participants. And one thing that we learned for them is that from this evaluation is that they really wanted guidance with their earnings. Each of our students have an opportunity to make close to $3,000 in 9 weeks, which is quite a bit of money for a 15 to 18-year-old. And one of the things that they told us is that they were really wanting guidance with their earnings, and they wanted to know how to save part of their earnings. So we met with one of America Saves for Youth partners, the Collaborative of North Carolina, and they told us about the America Saves for Youth program, which we thought was really, really a good partnership because we each had common goals for our youth. One of the great things about America Saves for Youth is that it provided the platform. It was already an established platform. One of the things about the city of Raleigh is that we have a 100% goal to have all of our city employees have direct deposit. So with America Saves for Youth and a direct deposit platform, that was an easy transition for us. So they also provided the tracking mechanism that was already established, and we thought that was a good way for our youth participants to know what their goals were, what their savings tracking was. So again, it was a very, very good way for us to learn more about the savings for our youth. Some of the obstacles that we were presented with when we wanted to incorporate America Saves for Youth, we took the idea to our division administrator, and while he liked the idea of America Saves for Youth, he was a little bit concerned about the logistics of it. How do we successfully implement this program with so many of our youth participants? So after we explained to him how easy the program was to implement and that the mechanisms were already there, we didn't have to reinvent anything, he became very, very supportive of that, and so we were really glad about that as well. We also went to our payroll department and asked them, okay, we want to incorporate America Saves for Youth in our summer employment program. Can you help us with that? We already know that we already do direct deposit, but how do we add the savings component? Most of our kids already have the checking account, but how do they go about opening up a savings account as well? And again, once we went to our payroll department, they were very, very supportive as well. They even told us, wow, we wish we could incorporate a program like this with our adult employees. So they provided the forms. They had to modify some of the forms for our youth participants, but they were very generous in doing that for us. And we were able to implement the program from the payroll department side. And then another obstacle was our parents. While our parents they liked the idea of their student savings, they, like a lot of other adults, were not familiar with how to save. And that's one of the things that I really like about the America Saves for Youth, because the how-to, the mechanism, the tools were right there. So we were able to share that with our parents, and they eventually provided the support that that our students needed for them to be engaged with America Saves. Our first year results, this was our very first year incorporating America Saves for young workers. We were really, really pleased with the results that we got. We had 82 of our participants, which was right at 47% of our core. And just for the first year, we thought that was spectacular. We had our youth pledge over $22,000 in savings. The average amount that they pledged per month was $88.32. And their number one savings goals was education. clothing and shoes. And their second goals, I'm very pleased, was the emergency fund. Like a lot of other programs that we've heard from today, having that emergency fund for our students really meant a lot. So America Saves for Youth, having that tool for them and that resource for them to have a way to save for emergencies really, really meant a lot. Our follow-up for our next year, our goal already is to increase the number of America Saves for Youth participants by 15%. We are going back to talk to our summer youth partners within the city of Raleigh to tell them about the success that we've had just this first year. We're gonna leverage that because we know that we can use America Saves to do a lot more.
Thank you. Next, Evelyn is the Youth Service Coordinator for the City of Chicago's Department of Family and Support Services, and she's one of the program managers of the Mayor's One Summer Chicago. Evelyn?
Thank you. Quick second. There we are. Good afternoon, everyone. So it is so exciting to be here with all of you today. I'm hearing all this great conversation about America Saves. We're talking about technology, right? We have young people sharing their perspective and how the program has been beneficial. So I want you to take a couple of seconds and look at that slide. There it is. So before One Summer Chicago, 66% of youth were unbanked and 72% of youth used checks cashing prior to their One Summer Chicago experience. That's huge. But I have to tell you, something that we did, and some of this conversation was alluded earlier, we decided last year to actually incorporate the One Summer Chicago, the America Saves pledge into the application because we felt the importance to really address the savings. And so, how are we able to do this? In our online One Summer Chicago application, we actually created specific questions and statements that were required for the youth to complete. We found it beneficial to embed these questions so that they were youth-friendly and straightforward for youth to complete. These questions and statements were compiled to aggregate the data previously shown on the slide. And again, as a funder, we've instilled in our agencies that data drives policy, which impacts the dollars and cents, the bottom line. We're very fortunate, but it's instrumental with our non-for-profits and in creating financial empowerment for our young people, their families and communities to have the data to tell the story. In Chicago, we've had the assistance and support of the Economic Awareness Council, Tracy Frizzle, who's in the audience, in conjunction with my colleague Lisa Davis at DFSS, and think partners like Danielle, who's also here, to develop statements and questions that require touch points in the application. We were able to pull the data on the back end of the system, which has served many purposes, such as demonstrating the impact of financial empowerment to our funders, our administration, our mayor, just to give you some context. Take a moment and look at this slide. 26,390 One Summer Chicago youth pledged to save in 2016. This is huge. We had the youth set a personal savings goals, and as George talked about the research and folks were talking about how they use the tool, it was so critical for us to import or embed it in our application because as a starting point, the young people are completing the information, but then throughout the summer, as you met one of our money mentors and our delegate agencies, they took on the responsibility of ensuring that financial education was key throughout the summer. So it was one thing to turn in your paperwork and sign up for your direct deposit, but then there was the consistent message of making sure that they had these modules to learn about financial education and financial empowerment. Again, this is huge. Towards the later part of our application, we actually, in support from our mayor and America Saves, the actual pledge is embedded in the application. So this is the information that we aggregate in the beginning, during, and after the summer, which is how we attain the number of youth, how much they saved. And it was a reminder to not only us as the funders, but our partners, but to also make sure that we were reminding our young people of the impact of savings. And as a part of integrating the America Saves platform into our application, we also use an online financial education tool. This year, we actually had it in twofold. It was available through our Plan to Achieve website, but also through our LRNG Chicago playlist, which was the Be Payday Ready. So once youth were hired and were working with their agencies, the agency staff and mentors worked with young people to assist the completion of their financial activities. In this case, these modules were located on 2 websites, as I mentioned. But again, I have to emphasize the incorporation of technology. But I want to note incentives such as providing a scholarship competition makes it appealing to youth. Most importantly, shifting youth's behavior on financial practices is critical, but we all know that since we're here. A couple more things I want to highlight. So this year there was personal outreach, and we worked with 11 bank partners that had 7 non-custodial youth accounts, all free with low minimums or no overdrafts. Trained 17 money mentors, again, Economic Awareness Council. Worked with a phenomenal team. The young people presented to over 8,000 young people. So just to give you an idea, this year in Chicago, we hired 31,345 youth between DFSS's portfolio and our partners. And our young people, our money mentors, went out to 116 events and got 4,300 youth to use direct deposit, and that's actually through a couple of the partners. So just the impact of peer mentoring. I'm so happy that Chicago was represented as well as DC, but just in program design, young people want to hear from other young people. I mean, we're fairly young, some of us anyways, right? But in all actuality, to hear from another peer is empowering because they also know what that struggle is, and it's much more conducive, and they're more turned on to understanding, the need for financial education. And I look like I'm done, but I want to make one quick note. Just a quick highlight. This is a great quote. This summer, I took a big step in my life, which was getting my first paying job. Relieved that I found One Summer Chicago, which not only helps me with college money, but also educates me in many ways. Bank experts came to my job and offered an informational session that informed us about financial skills that we should bring to habit. The information session inspired me to open my own bank account that will benefit me for the upcoming years. Thanks to One Summer Chicago, I am growing as a person, which will benefit me in many ways for the future. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Michelle is the program manager for the Bank on DC program, which is in with the Banking Bureau of the District of Columbia's Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking. Before joining DISB, she worked for Operation Hope as a youth employment program manager. Michelle?
Thank you, Luke. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm not going to go through too much of the background, but I just wanted to mention I do work with the Department of Insurance, Securities, and Banking for the District of Columbia, and that is the regulatory body for the city or state of the district. Depending on which policy you're on. DC statehood. All right. Bank on DC's mission is threefold. We really want to make sure that we provide the residents of the city with the opportunities to access products and services that will allow them to maximize their financial stability. Additionally, we assist and work with financial institutions to help reach unbanked and underbanked populations within the district and get them into the traditional banking services. And last, we also work with community organizations to provide financial education in various programs and help them access their target populations. This summer, we worked with the Marion Barry's Summer Youth Employment Program. This program was really initiated to help young people earn and gain meaningful work experience, learn and develop skills to succeed in today's work world, and gain exposure to various career opportunities. And I will say that I am too an alumni of the Summer Youth Employment Program. I went through that when I was young as well. And so this is something that's very dear to my heart. Within the Summer Youth Employment Program, it was recently renamed to Marion Barry's Summer Youth Employment Program, or MBSYEP, in recognition of his effort to create this program in 1979. Now, Bank on DC's capacity within this program is twofold. We provided financial education, and we were the coordinator of that for the program, as well as we had a peer-to-peer program called Young Money Managers. One of my Young Money Managers was on the earlier panel, Dorian Collins. I'm very proud of her, and we had 22 young people in that cohort for this summer. With the Young Money Manager program, young people go through a very intense financial education boot camp where they learn about financial services such as saving, investing, checking accounts, how to open up a checking account, and then they are prepared to go out into the community and share this information with other young people within the District of Columbia. Many of our young people use the social media aspect so that the technology was engaging for them. We also incorporated America Saves very much into what we did throughout the time. Just so you have a few of the details about the program, this particular summer we educated over 2,400 young people in face-to-face financial education. The program consisted of over 13,000 youth. All of the youth were also touched electronically at minimum with financial education information. And so we had a wide opportunity and multiple ways to access and reach our young people. Also during this summer, we were able to open up 1,074 bank accounts for our youth this summer. And so we did that in partnership with two financial institutions, District Government Employees Federal Credit Union, which you will hear from a little later today, as well as Democracy Federal Credit Union. And one other thing to note is 1,776 youth opted to receive their pay by direct deposit. So we are really impacting our young people. I want to talk a little bit about our banking portal and how we incorporated America Saves. We wanted to make sure it was an opportunity for young people to go through this whole process as they were going through applying for a job. We wanted to make sure that their banking options were known to them and why financial education was important. So not only did we incorporate it in the application phase, but really throughout orientation as well. So we were having multiple touch points for the young people to be engaged and understand the importance of financial education, because the last time I checked, repetition works very well for youth as well as adults. Yes. All right, so the process was very simple, and this screenshot, I'm sorry, didn't come out as well as I thought it would, but we had them do three things. They would go to their My Banking portal, which is bankondc.org/MBSYEP, so it's something that we created just for them. They would register through our LifeSense program, which was for Bank on DC financial education. They took the pledge. They had to watch the America Saves video so they can learn how to save, and then they took their pledge. And then they also had the opportunity to open up a bank account. And I'll skip through that. Just some of our data for this year. We had over 1,600 youth take the pledge for America Saves. On average, they wanted to save about $7,000 dollars per month. Now that's very large for our segment of population. However, they were very ambitious. It looks as though, however, on average, about $20 per month were saved, and the average savings time was 6 months. Their target goals were clothes and shoes, which is what young people like, but also education and an emergency fund. So with that, that ends me. Thank you very much.
I think we have enough. We have time for a couple questions. What questions do we have?
Just want to ask Michelle, the link, is it a part of the application process to be part of the program? I mean, do you have a link that takes you there and then it takes you back to the application? Is it something that you have to complete in order for the application to be, submitted in whole? How does that work? Because I'm getting ready to take that home.
Okay. Well, actually, it's been a learning process for us. And this past summer, it was a link on the application to go to the page. Because we have our program, which is separate from our Department of Employment Services with firewalls and things of that nature, we can't embed certain things within the application. However, it is something that we are embedding in a different way this summer. And so we have toiled through many different options to figure out which way is the best way. But we found that through doing it on the technology, making it part of their application phase now, that is what we're going to do this summer, as well as having those face-to-face touches while they're going through their orientation. These are the different methods that help encourage young people much stronger to get their banking together.
Well, please join me in applauding our panel.
Okay, so last but not least are the financial institutions that provide the products and the support for the young workers who are saving. And we've heard from both the young workers themselves and the program directors what an important role they play and how important their support and the information, the clear, precise information that the financial institutions provide and the support that they give plays in successful saving for the young workers. So now I'd like to invite Louisa Quitman. There you are, Louisa, who is So Louisa, you are the Director of Financial Security in the Consumer Affairs, the Consumer Policy Office for Treasury. And I would like to invite you up here, and please invite your panel.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry I snuck in before we got all the logistics straightened out. But why don't I ask the panelists? We have two panelists to come up. You'll hear shortly from Carla Decker, who's President and CEO of District Government Employees Federal Credit Union here in Washington, and Toby Baba, who's Assistant Vice President and Community Partnership Manager at Santander Bank based in New York. So it's great to have you here. I'll just kind of frame this for a couple of minutes and get us back on track time-wise. And again, thank you all for having this really important conversation today. I think this is so exciting to have the data and the findings of what really works to get young people involved in their financial futures and taking action as well as building their knowledge. I'll just say real briefly that Treasury's role in this work really comes from our commitment to building a strong and inclusive economy, and clearly an inclusive financial system is key to that. Our office is really at the place where the intersection between consumers and the financial system, and we want to make those two work better together. And I think involving young people in the financial system is really an important part. I mean, we're not going to solve the problems of our financial system and our economy if we don't do it with this generation. So the work today from all of these previous panels, I think, are a great example of both the need and the opportunity to bring young people into the financial system and help them access the products and services they need to be successful. We had a President's Advisory Council comprised of leaders from various sectors a couple of years ago, and I think their recommendations to the President and to the Secretary, I think, were very apt on this point. What they said was that when young people receive their first paycheck, they're primed to learn more about money management and have a unique opportunity to make timely and informed choices about their new income. The Council recommends integrating financial capability practices into youth training and employment programs, including financial education, access to direct deposit and safe bank accounts, and regulatory guidance regarding products for young people that enable them to safely learn to manage their money and save. And I think all of our work is really consistent with that objective. And I think the other aspect of this is, here across the government, we think that there's a role. You heard from Luke earlier about the work that the FDIC is doing in financial education as well as protection. And there's many opportunities for federal agencies to support this work. And many of you may know that the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act that came into effect in 2014 is another opportunity to integrate financial education into youth workforce programs. And the members of the Financial Literacy and Education Commission, which is chaired by Treasury, are supporting Department of Labor and its partners in making sure that partners around the country have the tools to integrate financial education and financial access into their work serving youth. But at the same time, we know that it's challenging to find financial institutions who are ready, willing, and able to deliver high-quality products and services and participate in the financial education that young people need. I think we have heard a lot of challenges about helping young people have a positive experience with their financial institution, to build their financial skills and to start to save. So I look forward to hearing from this panel about their innovative institutions, their products and services, the partnerships that you all have in helping young people. So I'm very honored to be here with this panel, and I'm going to turn it over to them. I think first we're going to hear from Carla, and then we'll hear from Toby.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It is truly a pleasure to be with you because there are few groups and organizations that truly want and are capable of delivering youth financial services as those of you gathered in this room. So District Government Employees Federal Credit Union is a community development financial institution. And I'd like to start with just relaying to you what our motivation is to bank the youth. First of all, it lies in mission alignment. We are all about financial inclusion. In the district, we work with low-income, underserved, and immigrant populations. So that was the first and foremost motivator. Second, though, is the fact that our credit union was originally sponsored by DC government. And so wherever we can, we support the work of DC government. We support their public policy initiatives in terms of financial inclusion and economic empowerment. And we are also a partner of Bank on DC. And then lastly, from very much a business perspective, we were looking at diversifying our membership. You do not want to know what the average age of our members is, but know that it is now significantly lower based on 6 years of banking the Summer Youth Employment Program participants. We'll just leave it at that. So how do we go about doing this? So I mentioned that we have been banking the youth for 6 years now. For the first 5 years, we focused on the more adult population of the participants. So we banked those kids who were youth, young people, who were 18 to 24 years old. And we did so with a dual account, savings and checking. We did so with an account that we found to be safe and affordable and that we designed in conjunction with Bank on DC. And so the checking account, for instance, has no overdraft privileges. The plastic works completely on real-time access. So again, there's no opportunity or very little opportunity for our youth to actually overdraw on those accounts. And as a result, be worse off than if they did not have a bank account. There also are no fees attached to this account, no fees whatsoever. There are no ATM fees, even if there are foreign transactions. There are no minimum balance requirements. So the account is actually funded by that first paycheck. The chart shows you the difference then with a non-custodial account. And the non-custodial account was actually established in 2016. And I hope you have a chance to read it because I'm going to forward to the next slide, which shows you just some of the aspects of that non-custodial account and how it was that we were actually able to encourage our board of directors to approve the offering of such a product. So the young person still has access to two accounts, a savings account, which is a pure savings account, and a transactional savings account. The transactional savings account is linked to a plastic. Again, that plastic has a daily limit amount for withdrawal, so it has a cap on how much the youth can access on a daily basis. The deposits that are not direct deposited from the employer actually have to come, the youth has to come to the office. And so these are various risk mitigation techniques to ensure that we address some of the challenges that we saw, particularly the UCC and contractual considerations, a minor basically entering into an agreement with the credit union that they were going to use the account. The other aspect of the non-custodial account is that we foresaw the case where parents might want to become a joint participant, a custodian in that account, to enable their youth to have full access to the account. So if you remember the previous slide, there were two columns. The one column showed the regular account that we provide the youth 18 to 24. We thought that there might be some parents who thought their youth were ready for that type of account and that type of access, and therefore the option was available for parents to participate in the accounts and then enable their children to have more access on the accounts. That was really important from a compliance, truly a legal opinion, but it also was, I think in the end, a really good lesson for us in that we found that many of the parents were actually very much involved with the younger participants. I mentioned here that there was board and staff buy-in, and that was truly necessary and key for the program to be successful. Not only did the board need to understand the program, agree to the level of risk that the credit union was entering in offering these non-custodial accounts, but it also required staff buy-in. We are a $57 million in asset financial institution with 23 employees. And I can tell you that during the course of the summer, almost every single employee had a role in either interfacing with the youth or supporting these accounts in one way or another. The staff buy-in actually was easier than we expected. If the moment that we provided staff with access to the youth, whether it was at orientations, whether it was by phone, whether it was by email, those interactions and understanding the impact that the banking relationship had with the young participant were really powerful and really encouraging and energizing our staff to proceed with this. I've listed some of the challenges, and I'm sure that we'll have questions about those, so I'm just going to skip to the next slide and show you the results for 2016. Let me start by saying that in 2015, we banked 300 youth. In 2016, as you can see, we opened 1,014 accounts. 817 of those were non-custodial. So clearly, the growth, the scalability of the program came from the younger participants. Of the accounts that we opened, and remember that we opened the accounts ahead of the Summer Youth Employment Program starting. So with the first paycheck, 888 accounts were actually funded. That's a 90% usage rate. That's one of our lessons learned and takeaway. What do we do with the difference? The average account holder was 16 years old. So even though the accounts started at 14 years old, and even though the bulk of the accounts were non-custodial, we still have participants who are 16 years old. That means that They probably have other jobs or other part-time jobs. They're already looking at college, and obviously are in that stage of life in which they're making decisions for themselves. In terms of the total portfolio, at the end of Summer Youth Employment Program, the total shares, the total amount of deposits was $65,000. 35% of that money was in savings, 65% was in either the checking or the transactional account for the non-custodial. The average savings balance was $30 and the average checking balance was $50. Now, as of last month, we have 871 accounts that remain open. So they probably correlate to the accounts that received ACH during the summer employment. And they have collectively an average of a balance of $60. In terms of next steps, first of all, I think the biggest lesson learned and what we need to remember as we move on to the next years is that it does truly take a village to bank the youth and to promote savings. So our partners in Bank on DC, our partners at Department of Employment Services, certainly our partner at America Saves, are integral in ensuring that, one, we have connectivity with the youth, two, that we provide a strong financial education, three, that we can motivate those savings in a way that is appropriate. As I say, at the credit union, what we focus on truly is in engaging with the youth, getting all of the documentation that is required to open the account, opening the account, and then maintaining the account. It's all technical, and if it wasn't for our own communications, but also the support that we get from the partners, this would not be the experience that we would expect the youth to have. Second, that this is not a summer program, that it is a year-round program, and that there are opportunities, business opportunities that have presented to us beyond banking the youth during the summer that arise from the summer youth participant, the banking the summer youth participant programs. And so that is really important for us. It's also important to remember that the youth continue to be our members, and so we need to continue to engage with them, we need to continue to provide support, and we need to continue to encourage those savings. And lastly, we need to increase scalability. If there are 13,000 participants in the DC's Summer Youth Employment Program and we're banking 1,000, then obviously there's plenty of room for other financial institutions to come in and join the fray, and that is one of the reasons that I'm here today, trying to promote the inclusion of other financial institutions as well. So, thank you so very much.
Great. So really a pleasure to be here again. My name is Toby Bob. I'm a community partnership manager with Santander Bank. I personally serve Metro New York and Northern New Jersey. Carla, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and really big thank you to CFA and America Saves for bringing this convening together. Being that I support Metro New York, I do support New York Summer Youth Employment Program, which does serve over 60,000 youth over every single summer. And they do that actually with partnership with nonprofit providers, well over 20 different providers implemented, and each kind of do it in their own individual way. So at Santander, we partnered really over the past 3 years with the program and have had learnings with each and every single year. And this past year, we did partner in some way with 9 of the providers. Primarily, we partner in terms of financial education, number one. So we do that, as I said, in different ways, depending on the provider's preferences. So over this past summer, we served over 5,000 youth providing financial education, and that was through auditorium, classroom, and one-on-one settings. As part of our curriculum, we definitely use a lot of the FDIC Money Smart materials, so we'll cover banking basics, savings, budgeting, credit, fraud. And so this was our first year actually implementing the America Saves Pledge as part of that program, and it really fit in perfectly. Part of what we do in our regular financial education is really encouraging the positive behavior of saving something. Whether it's $1, whether it's $5, we keep our habits good and bad, and if you start off with a good habit, as you make more money, as you work better in budgeting, you'll be able to put more money every single paycheck into a savings. And the nice thing about America Saves was it gave us that tool to continue to reach out to these youth and individuals after we leave. So this way, it's not just that one piece of education from the beginning, but it continues. I know we heard that question in the audience before about, well, how do you cope with the billions of dollars of ads telling us to spend our money? Well, America Saves is one of those tools that helps combat that, I think, by keeping it top and front of mind. In addition to doing the financial education, we also provided bank accounts for the youth. In our case, we did provide sole non-custodial accounts for those ages 16 and above. We provided both checking and savings accounts. And over the past year, we opened more than 1,000 for those individuals. So really 2,000 total, 1,000 checking and savings combos. During the account opening process, we make sure that we've got a lot of that one-on-one financial education, and then yet again, really encourage them taking the pledge right then and there on their phone if they hadn't already done so. And we've also realized over the past 3 years that we really needed to have a multifaceted follow-up approach with the youth, that just doing a one visit of financial education, you're bombarding with a lot of information. We've heard from the previous panelists, they didn't know what a lot of the terms were. They don't know how to operate the bank account, and a lot of these things are going to discover over time. So we really had to put in multiple measures to make sure that we were continuing that education. So like Carla here, we're just one bank, and especially after serving 60,000, we really need more banks to help participate in the work that we're doing. And so part of the why, of course, as a bank, we do have our community, really requirements and obligations, but at Santander, we're always committed to supporting the neighborhoods where we ourselves live and work, our colleagues live and work. And we'll always focus those most in need. The Summer Youth Employment Program in New York, about 75% of the youth are coming from those low to moderate income households. So absolutely, number one, a bank should be involved. You're helping your community. But number two, for those banks that are hesitant, we do want to send the message that there is a business case to make for joining as well. As I said, we opened more than 1,000 accounts for these individuals. I know for myself, I kept my first bank account that I set up, and a lot of these individuals will do the same thing. These are individuals that are going to be our future leaders, our future entrepreneurs, and they're getting a ton of professional and financial education as part of it. Banks should want these individuals as their clients. So there's a community side, and there's also that business case to keep in mind as well. Throughout the process, we've been reaching out for feedback and really uncovering challenges with many different partners and organizations, of course, like America Saves, speaking directly with DYCD in New York, speaking a lot and hearing from the nonprofit providers that are on the ground, such as CAMBA and the Police Athletic League of New York, which were both instrumental in implementing the America Saves pledge this year as well. And some of the challenges that we knew that we had to address was first, just that large percentage of unbanked youth, period. Number two is that lack of availability of affordable accounts and those non-custodial accounts. A huge inability for youth to meet standard identification requirements. And then again, which I mentioned before, a real strong need of follow-up and to really get external partners, nonprofits, financial institutions to assist these providers in doing some of the financial education. Individuals that are doing it day in and day out that can give very real and upfront advice as they're working with the youth. So to tackle some of these, we did, at Santander, we really have some great products as it is, but we did make sure that our student value account, we did adjust some things on there to make sure that it did help meet some of these challenges. So first, we did allow, as I said, for those student accounts to be opened for youth starting at age 16. So it covered really the whole 16 to 24 year age group, which is the older youth of part of the New York program. We had, there was no minimum balance requirement on those accounts, and we also waived the opening deposit amount. At Santander, we already have a low amount, so for anyone out there, even not part of the program, it was just a $10 opening deposit. But even for SYEP, we realized we didn't want to have that barrier. So we waived that and allowed their first direct deposit to be that initial funding. We automatically opted them out of the overdraft service, this way helping prevent them get those overdraft fees. We did not mail them out to them starter checks that they would be able to use. So we would provide them with void on it so they could still learn about the routing and account number, how to write out a check, and to have it for reference for their next job, but we were not giving them their starter checks. we made sure that every checking account does come along with a free companion savings. One of the other barriers that we see out there all the time is someone may want to have a savings, but that may require a separate minimum to keep, a separate monthly fee. As soon as that youth gets that first monthly fee, they say, close it out. Let me just stick with the checking account. So we wanted to make sure that, and this is really with most of our clients, that they do have that account. They can put aside that money, but if they need it, we're not going to kick them while they're down. We're going to let them take out that money out of the savings when they need it as well. Our student account has no or waived monthly fee as long as they do go paperless on the statements. Otherwise, there is a $3 fee. So as part of our follow-up process, did a lot of work of just making sure that they did convert over to paperless to avoid that smaller fee. And our student account also does have a reduced non-Santander ATM fee. So our typical customer pays $3. Our student clients will pay $2. And we did a lot of education in terms of in New York City, CVS Pharmacy is one of our partners that has our ATMs in as well. So just doing a lot of education and making sure that youth could both find their local branch and also find their nearest CVS. And we also did a lot of education on cash back as well, because if the youth don't know about direct deposit and a lot of these other things that we take for granted, you'd be surprised at how many are not aware of the ability to do cash back at major retailers. What was a really large success that we're proud of was we were able to work with DYCD and our internal compliance, AML, BSA departments to build in an ID exception for some of the youth. As part of the process, these youth are bringing so much identification. New York City does require a lot of documentation to enter into the program, a lot, I would say. So, but if they're getting it verified, and a lot of this is the same information that they could then take to get a state ID, why not be able to utilize this and make this part of the process? So we were able to build in an ID exception to help out a lot of individuals open up accounts. And then just a little bit on that follow-up and onboarding process. So we had utilized both our retail bankers. So when they're opening up the accounts, they're also scheduling one-on-one appointments to come into the branch to experience it within the branch, doing follow-up calls themselves. Part of our motto is to really be personal, our bankers, so it's really doing a lot of personalized follow-ups. But we also understand that students don't always answer their phone or respond during our hours. So we wanted to make sure we were doing more follow-up besides that. So we had the ability, and thankfully, to have our call center make outbound calls. So they would call in the evenings and on weekends when they had lower volume and actually do outbound calls to do all the same things to help with the onboarding. And that was everything from activating the debit card, their online banking, their mobile banking. One of the unique things about New York is the youth have to go on a website to set up the direct deposit. So it was really just lots of steps and lots of follow-ups. And we had to do this follow-up starting really in spring all the way through the end of the summer, and really just had a lot of touch points with it.
So much good stuff. I know there are probably questions and thoughts in the audience, but I did want to take that opportunity to ask the first question, because you all have been doing such great stuff on the transaction and the savings products. So I want to ask, what's next? What do you think are the products and services and opportunities that your institution is thinking about or might think about for further engaging the young people, since both of you are really seeing this as a long-term customer engagement strategy? You want to start, Carla?
So one thing that struck me was the presentation from the two young ladies and making the remark that they needed a second bank account to keep savings that were, let's say, blind to them. And so looking at how we structure that savings account, perhaps to either remove it even further from the transactional account or perhaps limit the accessibility to it would be something that we're looking at. But for us, the motivation is truly to grow the next generation of members. So it's all about thinking about how do we step up these youth to sort of the next set of financial needs as they relate to financial products. So we know that many of them are going on to college or trade schools. What are those financial products that are applicable to them then? Many of them will move on to a first job, full-time job, and what are those products again? We do have a series of just step-up products that we already have within the credit union to serve adults, and it's more a matter, I think, of how do we communicate and create value for our younger members.
Great.
Yeah, I think that part of it is just doing a better job of educating the youth on the services. So, I mean, great point from the panelists before about, yeah, having that ability to transfer money to another bank. We have that ability within Santander and online banking at no cost, but that's not been a big part of our education. So I think it's as we continue to build out our education platform, it's also going to be providing some of those resources to the nonprofit providers because we cannot be everywhere all the time. So it's really being able to take some of the materials that we've been developing and passing that on to the providers. And also, I would say, bringing and enhancing our online capabilities as well for the application process, to open up accounts. So just bringing more of that technology because there's a lot of on-the-ground effort that our employees are doing.
Great. I'm guessing there's probably questions. We can take a couple. I was going to ask Jean to plant a question, but she got it in my mind.
Well, hi, Jean Hogarth from the Center for Financial Services Innovation. And so, Tony, you've answered my one question about the ID issue, which I know is hugely important. So I'll ask the next question. Carla, when you were talking about next generation products, have you talked to me a little bit about your thinking on secured credit cards? Because it seems to me that that's a really interesting opportunity for youth that have already accumulated a little bit of savings to serve as that security deposit.
I think a secured credit card is an excellent product, and it's one that it's already within our portfolio. We do focus very much on serving individuals who were previously unbanked or underbanked, or individuals who are new to our country and so are new to our financial system. And so, yeah, credit builder type of products are already within the fold, and I think that a secured credit card is a perfect way to transition youth, particularly as they're leaving the home, to either attend to college or, to go to that first job, wherever that first job may take them.
Do you have thoughts on credit, either secured cards or other?
Yeah, well, I'm a huge fan of secured credit cards and secured products. Santander, we have a secured loan. We do not have a secured credit card. However, as part of our standard financial education, when that comes up, because the threshold is often lower to be able to put down a secure deposit for the card. We actually partner with some great credit unions in our area as well that we will gladly refer individuals out to. So we absolutely see, and personally, credit is, I think, that biggest impact. We love to do credit because it affects just so many parts of an individual's life, from jobs, housing, everything. And thankfully in New York City, they did pass some changes to make it a little bit tougher for jobs to check credit, but it's a really big passion of ours.
Do we have time for another question?
So I was at the FDIC's Youth Symposium, Savings Pilot Symposium last week, and one of the women that was sitting at my table was mentioning that the importance of having the non-custodial account, because what they were finding is that some of the youth in this program, if it were a custodial account, when they were saving, parents were coming in and taking out the money that the youth had been saving, which I thought was really sad. So is that the reason why, like Santander, you're saying you only offered non-custodial? Is that the reason why or is that part of the reason why that you're offering the non-custodial accounts?
Yeah, so it was part, and I do want to clarify, we weren't only offering non-custodial, so if a parent and a youth did want to be on there together, we would offer it. That was one of the main asks that we heard from DYCD and the providers to give that option of non-custodial. But what I will tell you is that, because it's absolutely sad, you're absolutely right, but there are really other households where the youth wants their parents' input right before they're setting up that account. So we actually had developed a separate process where even if we were opening up that sole owner account, we would offer to the youth, hey, do you want us to touch base with a parent, with a mentor, with a brother, sister, cousin, uncle? And we would take down that information and make that follow-up call separately and say, hey, we're gonna make this follow-up call before setting up the account just to see if that individual has some questions as well. Because We want to help them be able to keep their money, but also want to make sure that they're making the right decision for themselves as well.
Great. Do you want to add anything, or you? Okay. Well, I think we're probably at time. And it's been a great panel. I know there's lots more to talk about, but I really appreciate both of you being here and sharing your experiences.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thanks, Louisa. Okay, so I think that closes, that's the last of the panels, and I want to invite Amelia O'Rourke Owens, who is the America Saves for Young Workers coordinator, up to make an announcement, and then George Barani to close us down. But before Amelia comes up, please join me in thanking all of our terrific panels for their terrific presentations. And more importantly, for the incredible work that they have done to help youth save. So Amelia, your turn.
Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining us here today. We're excited to announce that in addition to many of our partner programs and cities who are in this room today, and then a few who are watching us via webcast who were not able to make it to DC today, we have 6 new programs that have already signed up for the summer of 2017. So we just wanted to highlight those new signups for next summer, and we hope to add to this list, and we're on track to meet our goal of 30 partner cities and programs by the summer of 2017. Baltimore City YouthWorks. YouthWorks, run by the Mayor's Office of Employment Development, offers 8,000 youth ages 14 to 21 paid summer jobs at nonprofits, government, and businesses throughout Baltimore. Youth work 25 hours a week for 5 weeks, in addition to receiving financial literacy education. Boulder Youth Corps. The Youth Corps provides opportunities for 160 Boulder County teens aged 14 to 17 to develop a sense of community involvement through personal accomplishment, teamwork, and service to the county. The City of Evanston Summer Youth Employment Program. Evanston employs 600 youth ages 14 to 18 each summer and partners with local employers to provide its young workers professional development experience. Opportunity Now. Opportunity Now is a coordinated initiative launched by Nashville's Mayor Megan Barry to provide young people in Davidson County access to paid public and private summer employment and connect them to opportunity and hope. The initiative was created based on recommendations from the Mayor's Youth Violence Summit as a way to connect youth to real work experience. Opportunity Now is designed to combat the growing gap in youth employment and will be the central system for delivering thousands of jobs to young people. Next Generation Zone in Spokane, Washington, created in 2007, is Spokane area's only career center for young adults. The center combines education, career skills training, community, and employment resources in one place to provide wraparound support to inspire young adults in their career goals. And Central Ohio Workforce Development Board of Central Ohio. The Columbus region has more than 20,000 teens and young adults aged 16 to 24 who are out of school and unemployed. Mayor Andy Ginther, the City of Columbus, and many other partners are working to identify more employment opportunities to help these young people find full-time, part-time, or seasonal employment. In the summer of 2016, America Saves for Young Workers partner programs employed over 31,000 youth. We're excited to announce that next summer, with our new partner programs, who will hire an additional 12,000 youth, providing them with the opportunity to learn new and effective savings habits through the America Saves for Young Worker programs and the other services they offer. George Barani, our Director of National Programs and Strategy, will close us out.
Well, I also want to thank all our panelists, our moderators for a quality, really quality presentation today. Much, much appreciated, and I think lessons for all of us to learn. So the challenge is, and I guess the call to action, I mean, can you imagine that government dollars that are being used to subsidize and support employment programs, particularly youth employment programs, allow for young people to get paid by paper checks, in some cases cash, and certainly a huge missed opportunity. It just doesn't seem right that federal dollars help to support new customers going to check cashing operations and not allowing young people to learn and have the opportunity to save effectively and automatically the way many of us do. They're going into the workforce, they're getting a job, they should be treated like an adult and offered the same opportunities that adult workers have. So that's really the call for all of us to think about, is how do we change that paradigm so that any program that utilizes federal funds to support youth employment has to offer direct deposit, offer access to safe and appropriate accounts, has to offer the opportunity to learn about money, manage about money, and save money effectively. So I encourage all of us to think about that and talk about it within our networks and ideally develop a policy initiative that changes this paradigm. So thank you so much for your attendance today, both here live and across the country. We are now adjourned.